I'm in Red Deer, Alberta at Freedom Talk, an event put on to address the challenge of Western alienation and, yes, the unpopular but important question of Western separation. What does Alberta do? How do Albertans deal with the problem that they are having right now with another Trudeau government that has essentially turned its back on the West? This conference is important. It has hundreds of Albertans, grassroots activists, together talking about the issues, talking about the solutions, and channeling the frustration into something that may result in a resolution or, at the very least, a path forward. I spoke to Danny Hozak, who's the chair of the Economic Education Association, which is the host organization of this conference, about what it really is and what the ideas being discussed really mean for Albertans. This is what Danny Hozak said.
In short, this is about the future of our country, or potentially of two countries. As you know, we have three groups of people here, some of them making the case for separation, some of them defending federalism, and another group saying irrespective of whether you have one country or whether you have two, you have to deal with your neighbors. And that's what we're going to be doing today, is talking about dealing with our neighbors, meaning America, meaning First Nations, meaning other provinces.
Do you see it as being a separatist conference, or is it a conference about separatism? And is there a difference between those two things right now?
Well, there's absolutely a difference. Like, we're talking about both sides of the issue. What we want to do is, so often what happens is everybody gets in a different room talking about what they want to do. Our goal was to have everybody here, the people who were quite passionate about separation, the people who are equally passionate about defending federalism, defending our country. We want them to all be in the same room, hearing each other's arguments and saying, oh, maybe I could understand that. Maybe we could help with that.
What would you say has been the biggest theme? Because there's a lot of anger in Alberta right now. There's a lot of frustration. But at this event, what would you say have been the biggest themes that have emerged as far as what people really want?
Well, I think the biggest theme is we're going to get this sorted out one way or the other. You know what I mean? And I think we're all resolved to that. I don't think we are united in what we think the answer is, but I think we all agree this cannot go on, and we want it sorted out sooner rather than later.
What do you think the timeline is if we are going towards an independence movement and it is going to grow and gain steam? What do you think the steps need to be that happen over the next year and the next 2 to 3 years?
Well, I think the steps are, like, I think we need to set a date for a vote on separation. We'll set the date, and then everybody knows. It's like final exams. Say final exams are June 30th. We'll be marking your papers based on what you've done before then. And so the people who believe in separation, they can go out into our province and talk to their friends and neighbors about how they think we would separate, what the challenges are, and what they intend to do to meet those challenges. The people who, the people who are here defending federalism say we can fix the country. We can say, fine, we're going to hear some of those ideas this morning, the ideas on fixing federalism. Say, let's just say we have 5 or 6 things that would fix federalism. Well, fine, get busy, because we're going to be voting at the end of, let's just say, June. So you better get it done, because the day we're voting, if you haven't done any of them, you know how we're going to be voting. If you've done 4 out of the 5, you might say, they're trying pretty hard. I really think they do want to fix the country. Let's stay. You see what I mean? But I think the point is we want to set a date for the vote so we know one way or the other, this is going to be over. And then everybody can work backwards from that. Talk about how much work you've got to do, who you have to talk to, and go forward from there.
One thing I noticed is that there isn't a huge number of MLAs here or members of parliament that are currently serving. Do you think there's a fear among elected representatives of it going anywhere near this question, despite the fact that Albertans are asking the question?
Yes, one of the most either astute or cynical things that Ralph Klein said was, show me a big enough parade and I'd be happy to lead it. And quite frankly, to me, it is totally disappointing that they're not here. They're supposed to be our leaders. Jason Kenney has set up a panel of people to travel the province and find out what Albertans want. I think it's fair to say that we've got 350 of probably the most, patriotic Albertans and patriotic Canadians in the country today. They're all here. They might as well have been here listening. You know what I mean? And I guess I wouldn't presume to say why they're not here. In fairness, Drew Barnes is here. My MLA, Garth Roswell, is here. Donna Kennedy Glantz, who is on the fair panel, whatever they're calling that panel, she was away. She got in late last night. She's hoping to be here today. So some of them are planning to be here. The ones who aren't planning to be here, I don't know why, but we'll be talking to them about that.
What would you say your message is to Canadians that are uncomfortable with the idea of a Canada without Alberta?
Well, I guess I would say, like, we love you. You know, I mean, we love this country. We don't want it to be two countries, but we're not going to put up with what we've had in the past. And I mean, you know, like, I mean, we're trying to be impartial as a group, but I talk to enough Albertans to know that that's what they're thinking is, okay, if you want it fixed, that's fine, but this is not going to go on the way it is.
Now, as you heard from Danny, this conference itself does not pick a side, though that doesn't mean that people here don't have their sides. In fact, I spoke to Drew Barnes, who's an MLA for Cypress Medicine Hat, about that and asked him, first off, why he's here, but also what it is that his constituents are telling him. He says that it's important to listen to them because there is no consensus.
It's kind of all over the place. I'd say, you know, maybe 25 or 30% have been filled, and they've been working on a stronger, more independent Alberta for a long time, 25 or more years, back through the Reform Party movement, and there's some frustration there with them. There's many people that say to me, Canada gets one last chance to let us prosper and let us share. There's many that say under no conditions do they want to leave Canada, that they think we need to continue to work and expand our case. And I'll say this, anytime Albertans, anytime Canadians are talking, we're winners. We, you know, great presenters here, great ideas, great input from the crowd. Everybody here is learning something, working together, and it'll make Alberta stronger and hopefully Canada too.
Obviously, working with the Canadian partners, as he says, finding a way to reform Canada is a key part of this, but not everyone's convinced that that's possible. I caught up with Derek Fildebrand, who's a former MLA and now the publisher of the recently revived Western Standard, and he says he would like to see a number of steps championed to really assert Alberta's place in a new Canada, but he concedes that he's not optimistic that Canada will meet that challenge.
If we have a referendum on equalization, it'll feel good. Albertans will vote to change it or get rid of it in overwhelming margins, but we're going to send that to Ottawa, and what's going to happen? They're going to tell us to pound sand. And then we're going to have two choices here. We can accept a humiliating yoke of the status quo, or we can move towards independence. It's one reason I actually don't think there's going to be a referendum on equalization.
Lest anyone think this conference is just about anger, it's quite the opposite. I've met people that have solutions for how to make Canada work. I've met people who have said separation is their last resort. And yes, I've also met people who think that it's time for separation now. But a few of the ideas that have been championed to fix Canada have come about through a number of resolutions that some people might think are wacky, but quite frankly, anything is on the table. From reforming the Constitution to assert more liberty, from revamping equalization payments, to, in some cases, redrawing provincial boundaries so Alberta has access to tidewater. These are just some of the ideas that have been put forward to the crowd here in Red Deer. What will happen moving forward? Well, that's for the activists in the room and their lawmakers to decide. But certainly there is a desire to say that the status quo is not working and a desire to turn it into something that is. For True North from Red Deer, I'm Andrew Lawton.